Hi, and welcome back to Parenting on Pause, a series of conversations where we discuss different topics relevant to parents today. I'm here with James Dr. Love Banks. He is involved in multiple organizations that deal with disparity and diversity. He is a counselor, a college-wide coordinator for multicultural affairs, and a consultant to the Center for Social Justice and Human Understanding. Dr. Banks, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, I'm so glad and so happy to be here.
And this one is going to be a little bit different. So right now we are in the middle of 40 Days of Fathers, where we're celebrating all things dad. And we've known forever that dads are an important part of a family. But now science and research is starting to really tell us exactly why. So I know that's a pretty broad scope, but let's dig in a little bit to why exactly is a dad so important?
Well, I think that obviously that's a very, very wide-ranging question because I believe that dads are important for a lot of reasons. And some of those reasons include being able to model for their sons and daughters how a man is supposed to be and supposed to function in a household. Mothers are so important. I think they're the better gender. Okay, and I say this all the time about women. Maybe it's because I like women, but they're so important. All right, and however, males are important too in the lives of raising children. One, because we can model how to treat people as equals. Another, because we can show that the investment in our child's life by males should be equitable, should be as equals, so that when we are going out into the job force or the job market, or our partners are going out, or both of us are going out, then the responsibilities can be meted out equally too. We've been socialized to certain roles. I remember as a young person, the males took the garbage out, and the females did the dishes and the laundry, and I said, wait a minute, who said that needs to be the rule? I can do laundry as well as anybody else, particularly since I grew up in a single parent household with all brothers. We all had to do our laundry. We all had to learn how to cook. So those kinds of things are paramount for males to be able to model that they are not just one faceted, they are or single faceted. They are multifaceted, just as their partners are. And things like, particularly when it comes to things like discrimination and race, I always like to touch a little bit on that for African American families, because we have to teach our young people a little bit extra. All right, we have to teach them how to survive when stopped by police. We have to teach them how not to get involved in acting out behaviors that are going to have people be critical of them and going to give them records. We live in a society where a large majority of our young African American males end up in jail. They call it the school to prison pipeline. And those kinds of issues are imperative that we help our young people understand that there's another way to do this. There's another way, there's another group of people who can help you become more successful. Teach them entrepreneurial things. Males can teach entrepreneurial stuff. Not that females can't, because I think we should be teaching our daughters these things too, all right? But so that's why a male is important in the family, because he can show both sides of the pendulum, all right? And he can identify that both of us, or all of us, are in this love together.
And so for a dad that maybe is not engaged but would desire to be, and so if it's not intrinsic in somebody, what steps can they take, or how do they start?
What a wonderful question. I think that the truth is that because it's sometimes uncomfortable for some dads, because they've been socialized not to do it. Their fathers never hugged them or touched them, or they didn't get any love or kisses from anybody in the family. They would just, go out and be tough, all that kinds of stuff. So they have a hard time adjusting to how to give that to their young people. So one of the things that I've recommended is to, again, in this case, give a little bit, even if you just do a little bit. You know, when you feel that twinge in your heart and in your chest that tells you not to do it or tells you that it's going to be hard, push yourself and do it anyway. Be uncomfortable, because when you do that, you are now sending the message to your young person that they too need to do it and can do it. Because the children of those fathers who can't touch and don't give affection often grow up to do the same with their children. And that's drastic and dreadful. And, you know, that socialization to be aggressive. Aggression is okay if the aggressive behaviors are affirmative and positive and bring about change and care about other people. But if it's putting people down, you know, that's not good, because in my opinion, it's lonely at the top. And the reason why it's lonely at the top is because we often step on other people to get there, instead of taking others by the hand and joining and having them join us at the top, so that we can paint a new picture, a picture of inclusiveness and togetherness. And fathers can model that by being that with their young people. But it's not easy for some.
Yeah, it makes me think of that expression that if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go together. And I think for a lot of dads too, something that they deal with is not having a lot of time, right? And
Right.
so it sounds a little bit cliche to say, but I think remembering that it's the quality of the time you're spending with your children, not necessarily the quantity of time.
Right. That's a great point. Um, you know, it doesn't have to be hours and hours of an investment in someone's life for them to really appreciate or enjoy you. What it needs to be is an opportunity for you to show the kinds of things that you would like to have for yourself. You know, one of my favorite statements is, if you want something in this world, go out and give it to someone else. Instead of waiting for it to come to you, you give it first, all right? And that's a great thing to model for our young people. Great thing to model for them. The scary thing about that is that people are not always so comfortable with doing that. They really aren't, you know? And rather than be repetitive or redundant, this is at the core of what our violence quotients are in this world. This is at the core of what our school to prison pipeline is about. This is at the core of what young people feel they can't be teachers because the ones who are standing in front of them don't look like them. But you have 82% of the teachers standing in front of the young people as white females or white period, then an African American is going to feel less likely that they too can do it, or be one. And it doesn't harm, and it is very important for us to get a modal exposure to a lot of things and a lot of different people, because there's so many things I learned from people who are different from me. I was in the war in Vietnam, and I went there after living in poverty as a child. And when I got there, I got to see what poverty really was like, okay? Because there was true poverty. I was wealthy compared to some of those folks. So, my one myopic vision, okay, isn't necessarily enough to really characterize the whole experience or the whole planet. So the more people we have in our lives that are different, the better off we are.
And I think the thing to remember too, sometimes family engagement or the idea that we need to be all of these things to our children can intimidate people whom, again, maybe it doesn't come as naturally to. But it sounds funny to say kids don't need a lot, but by that I mean we don't need to do all of these fancy, extravagant things to be engaged with our children. We really can bring it back to the fundamentals.
Oh, that's so real. That's so real. Sometimes, if, for example, in a single parent household, which we are seeing more and more of in our society, sometimes it may mean getting the young person involved in a club, or getting them involved in in an activity at the community center where there are male role models there, or participating with them in some small activities. I remember as a child not having my dad present. I remember when we had father and son activities, no dad to go with me. And I remember the feelings associated with that. So I said to myself, that was never going to happen to my little people.
Thank you so much.
And I found myself working so much. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I found myself working so much to try to make sure that they had all the things that they wanted, that sometimes I did miss out on some things. But any time that I had available, I was there trying to give them quality love and quality affection.
But I think that's such a good point too. It's finding in each of us our own motivator for wanting to be engaged. So remembering the why and remembering the core of why we are doing this, which will make it maybe seem less like work sometimes and just come a little bit more naturally and make it more enjoyable and remove some of that pressure.
Yeah, that is real important. Sometimes we don't even know that that little bit of pressure is because we haven't been exposed to it. We haven't had a chance to actually peruse it, but that's kind of the way that we find our answers, is by going through it. Everything we go through, we have the opportunity to grow through if we allow it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again for sharing so much with us today. Everybody, we have a series of conversations with Dr. Banks on our website, epicforchildren.org, as well as on our YouTube channel under both COVID Conversations and Parenting on Pause. So be sure to check all of them out. Thank you so much again.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for inviting me.
We'll see you next time.